Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Living Manna. Guys, it is Wednesday evening, which of course for us means it is time for Bible study. Welcome, everybody. Hi, I'm Dave Sain, Senior Shepherd here at Living Manna. Thank you for hanging out on me on this Wednesday evening. I hope that you guys are having a great week out there. A little cold up here in the Northeast, but it was a beautiful day nonetheless. Hopefully you guys are having a beautiful day wherever you are watching from. And if you do watch tonight, make sure you give us a shout out. Let us know where you're watching from. If the first time that you're hanging out with us here tonight, don't forget to hit the bell, subscribe. If you enjoy the information, if you enjoy the studies, give us a like, send it out to somebody else so that they can maybe view it and more people can get an opportunity to see these type of messages, these type of studies. We appreciate your help in all of that. And of course, if you want to support us here at LMC, you can download our app on the Google Play Store or the App Store. It's the LM or Living Manna, blue and white logo, as you see right here on my microphone. That's our logo. Download that and get in touch with the church, be in connection with all the stuff that we do, our calendar, the dates, events, studies, all sorts of stuff. And of course, you can support us through there as well. We're not supported through YouTube, just through the gifts and the offerings and the tithes of the people that watch us. All right, so with all commercials sort of out of the way, we've got some neat stuff that I'd like to get into tonight for us. And here is the topic and the title for tonight. It is A Lamb to Slaughter. A Lamb to Slaughter. Now, we've been talking about Isaiah. If you've been watching the last couple of weeks, hopefully you have. If you haven't, you can go back and you can check out the last couple of weeks' studies. This is just a continuation of that. Eventually, we're going to get to Isaiah 53. We're just going to touch it today. We're actually going to spend time in Isaiah 52 today before we get into Isaiah 53. And the reason, for all of this, for trying to understand what the story is of a lamb to slaughter, is because there's a question in just sort of the modern religious world around us today as to who is the suffering servant. From Rashi, a medieval rabbi, all the way up till today, modern Judaism, and of course the Haredi and all sorts of other parts of Judaism. To them, they read Isaiah 40 all the way to 55, and in their view, especially Isaiah 53, that the suffering servant of Isaiah 53 are the people of Israel. That's the servant that's being spoken of, or we could say this, the house of Israel, or probably even more particular to them, the Jewish people. That they are, in fact, who Isaiah is talking about. They're the suffering servants. They're the ones that are going to nobody believes their report, all that kind of stuff. And we kind of delved into this before. You guys can go back and check out some of the information we shared on that. But there is, aside from what modern Judaism believes today, historic Judaism, and I'm sure I hope that there's some parts of Judaism today that believe this, but historic Judaism always looked at these verses of the servant mentioned in Isaiah 40 all the way to 55 is about the coming Messiah, that these are messianic verses. They're prophecies, they're messianic verses. Now, even if somebody holds the historic view that these are prophecies that speak about a Messiah, that's wonderful. I guess that's a step in the right direction, but it's not a big enough step in the right direction, because it's not just about a coming Messiah. It's about a Messiah who has already come. And of course, if you look at modern Christendom, and I'm just using that as sort of a general term to describe all of us. I'm talking about believers in the Master, believers in whether you call him Yeshua, whether you call him Yahushua. We're talking about the one who died and rose again, has an absolute direct connection to the suffering servant of Isaiah 40 to 55, is in fact the Messiah, the King of Israel. Now, while Christendom has the belief in that to a degree, there's also sort of a separation from the Passover story. It's like it's as something that is not necessarily related to the story of Messiah, when in fact it is absolutely the same exact story. And we've been talking about that for a couple of weeks. So this is just a little bit of review, that the book of Isaiah, in the portions that we've been reading for the last few weeks, Isaiah is actually telling us another story of the Exodus, another story of the Passover, another story of the redemption of Father's people, except this time it's not from the redemption of Egypt, it's from the redemption out of Babylon, out of the sin of Babylon, out of sin for all of us. But that's what the second story is. And of course, the second story is much bigger, because it's not about Moses and the children getting out of Egypt. It is about the Messiah, who is the prophet like Moses, getting us all out of the sin and slavery, or the slavery to sin, and what it eventually means for all of us, of course, is death. So that's been the analogy, and I'm sure most of you guys that do watch, you've sort of wrapped your mind around that already. So what we're going to do today is we went through the small, or the little gospel story, or really it's not the little gospel, the second Exodus story. Last week we went through all sorts of different verses. Before we get into Isaiah 53 and try to really explain that, at least in its proper context as I understand it, I want to look at Isaiah 52. I want to sort of lead up to the story, because it's the whole story of Messiah, and it's wonderful. It's fun to try to find the story of Messiah in there, because it's absolutely there if you have eyes to see and ears to hear. So we're not going to read every single verse in Isaiah 52. I'm going to skip around. It's not a very, very long chapter, but I'm going to skip around. I'm going to talk about a couple of different things, and I want to compare what you and I understand of the story of Messiah, and you're going to see, oh my goodness, this is what Isaiah is talking about. And hopefully by the end of this, not just tonight, and I think we've already sort of made up our mind here, that it's not about the house of Israel. Salvation is, the redemption is about Jerusalem, at least the initial part of redemption. But the servant that's being spoken of here is about the Messiah, not the house of Israel. So this is the lead up. The next chapter after this is, of course, Isaiah 53, the whole lamb to the slaughter. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him. Really, really famous verses to those of us that believe in the death and the resurrection. But it's how we get there that's important, because if that's the actual Passover, this is the lead up to it. He's telling us all sorts of stories and information about what's about to happen in Isaiah 53. So here's Isaiah 52 for tonight. And I'm starting off with verse 6. And here is an issue that Father is explaining through the prophet, through Isaiah here, to the people. 52, verse 6, it says, "Therefore, my people shall know my name in that day, for I am the one who is speaking." So he's talking about a day off in the future. In the previous verses, he's sort of complaining they've blasphemed my name. The issue is they really don't know his name. The house of Israel forgets the name. And by the name, it means the actual name, maybe the pronunciation of it, maybe the writing of it. But I think more importantly, the authority of it, who he is. They've forgotten that. And so Isaiah is saying, listen, this servant that's coming, this whole story that's coming, that he's going to call the good news, that's going to deliver Jerusalem, that's going to redeem Jerusalem. When we say redeem Jerusalem, what we actually mean is redeem the people of Jerusalem, not the city per se, but the people. So he says, therefore my people shall know my name in that day, for I am the one who is speaking. So whenever this happens, what we're actually going to hear is Father's voice. And what we're going to find out is when you actually understand what this prophecy means, someone else is going to be speaking, but the words that he's speaking are not his own words. They are indeed the Father's words. He says, see, it is I. How pleasant upon the mountains are the feet of him who brings good news, who proclaims peace, who brings good news, who proclaims deliverance, who says to Zion, your Elohim reigns. So this is the comfort, this is the redemption that Israel's waiting for, that Jerusalem's waiting for. And Father's saying, as Isaiah 52 is opening up, they've forgotten my name, they've blasphemed my name, they've walked away from my name, but I'm going to let them know my name. I'm going to actually be the one speaking. They're going to hear a voice, but the one they hear saying these words, how pleasant upon the mountains are the feet of him who brings good news. This servant that's coming, he's the one who is going to be speaking. But when he speaks, as it says here, take a look at me real quick. How pleasant upon the mountains is him who brings the good news. Well, whoever is bringing the good news, it is Father, is the one who is speaking. And in Father speaking through this servant, his name will be known. This brings redemption through this servant to the house of Israel. You guys, your spidey senses should all be going off. This all should sound very, very familiar to you because this is the story we know. Here's John chapter 17 and, of course, verse 25. We can look at a whole bunch of different verses, but here's just two to start us off with. It says, "O righteous Father," this is the prayer of the Master the night before the night of his arrest and the night before his crucifixion. It says, "O righteous Father, indeed the world did not know you, but I knew you, and these knew that you sent me. And what did the Messiah do? And I have made your name known to them, and shall make it known." Now, we could read over that. We're just reading John 17. If we don't have the benefit of understanding the prophecies about the servant in Isaiah, you would read right over that and not realize what he's saying. This is a fulfillment of Isaiah. Father is going to, now I didn't even put the verses up, but how many times does the Master say, it's not my words, it's the Father's words. The Father's, when I speak, I'm not speaking my own words, I'm speaking the Father's words. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father, which is exactly what Isaiah is saying here. The people are going to know his name. Father's going to be the one that's speaking. Yah's will be the one that's speaking, but it's the servant. How beautiful are the feet of the servant who does these things, who proclaims the good news, comfort to Jerusalem, comfort to the people, and obviously comfort to the whole world. So Messiah says in his prayer again, here in the orange, if you guys can see it, I'm underlining it there in blue. He says, "I have made your name known to them, and shall make it known, so that the love with which you loved me might be in them, and I in them." So if Messiah's feet, if what Isaiah is saying, how pleasant upon the mountains are the feet of him who brings good news, we're speaking about the Messiah who is bringing Father, the servant who's bringing Father's word. Saul then takes it a step further once we understand what the story is after the death, after the resurrection. Saul then applies the same principle of taking this gospel message, this redemption to the house of Israel, this redemption for the lost sheep of the house of Israel, and now being spread out around the world. Saul then says this in Romans 10 and verse 15. Let me make this a little bigger for you guys. Sorry, I forgot about that. Here we go. This way you guys can see it a little bit bigger. He says the following, "And how shall they proclaim it if they are not sent? And as it has been written," he's referring to Isaiah 52, How pleasant are the feet of those who bring good news of peace, who bring the good news of the good. However, not all obeyed the good news. For Yeshayahu, speaking about Isaiah, says, Yah, who has believed our report. Now we'll get there in just a second. He's quoting Isaiah 53, but not yet. First, he's quoting Isaiah 52. But he's relating it not just to what Messiah did, not just that Messiah's feet are beautiful. He's saying those of us who understand, those of us who are sent out. How beautiful are our feet? Once we understand this story, once we understand the good news of redemption to the house of Israel, to Jerusalem, and to the entire world, how beautiful are our feet as we also proclaim this gospel. Not sharing our own words, but the words the Master gave us, the words the Master gave us that he received from his Father. So Saul was definitely realized that Isaiah 52, 53, all the whole book of Isaiah, that it was talking about the Messiah. It was talking about the one who died and rose again on the third day. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. That is what Saul is referring to here. Now, again, he does reference Isaiah 53. We'll get there in just a second. It's at the end where he says, Yah, who has believed our report. So basically, by quoting that verse, when you get Isaiah 52 says, this person's going to come, he's going to bring good news. But then Isaiah 53 starts off with, who has believed our report. Even though he's coming and he's going to bring this good news, not everybody is going to believe the report. But we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. Let's stay here in Isaiah 52 just for a couple of minutes. So, of course, the good news is the comfort of Jerusalem. Now, we say the good news, if we're going to define the good news in sort of today's parameters, Messiah came, he died, he rose again, he ascended to the Father, he's going to return, right? Salvation to those who repent and believe. Yeah, absolutely. But the good news is the comfort that the sin and the burden that Jerusalem, the people of Yah, were under, is now broken when Messiah comes. And then that gift is now given to the rest of the world. So yes, the good news is everything we said, but the good news from a Hebraic perspective first, to the Jew first, which was, I think, one of our original messages, is that this message must come to Jerusalem first. It came to the lost sheep of the house of Israel first. And now it's been spread out all over the world. So it's about the comfort of Jerusalem. Yes, and who is the comfort of Jerusalem? Messiah is the comfort of Jerusalem. So here's Isaiah chapter 52 and verse 9. And listen to what the prophet says. Break forth into joy. Sing together, you waste places of Jerusalem. So in one sense, he's referring to Jerusalem as waste places. And yet, in another sense, he's going to refer to Jerusalem as being redeemed. It is both a waste place and it is redeemed. It's a waste place for the people in it that are doing the things that they are doing that maybe do not believe, but it is also a place of redemption for the people that are in it that do believe. And that two things can be true at the same time. So he says, you waste places of Jerusalem. Why? For Yah shall comfort his people. This is the whole story of Simeon, who's waiting at the temple. I think we talked about this a while ago, or maybe on a Shabbat service. He's waiting there. He knows he's not going to die until he sees the comfort of Israel. This is right out of Isaiah chapter 40. The comfort my people, comfort my people. Jerusalem. Again, when we say Jerusalem, we mean the house of Israel, the Jews of that day. But it goes way, way, way beyond. But it must start with them. So what's the good news? That the one in the previous verses we just read in Isaiah, whose feet are beautiful, who when they speak are speaking Father's words, here's the good news. For Yah shall comfort his people. He shall redeem Jerusalem, who is a waste. So just because he redeems Jerusalem doesn't make Jerusalem, the city, better or good. He redeems the people in Jerusalem. Verse 10, it says, Yah shall lay bare his set-apart arms. So now he's telling us the good news. How is Father going to comfort his people? Now, we may read this and not realize it, especially if from a sort of a modern Christian perspective, you're not connecting this story to the Passover. How is Father going to redeem or comfort Jerusalem, redeem or comfort his people? Through he will lay bare his set apart arm. Now, this is a term that is used multiple times in multiple places, but the place it's first used is in the Exodus story, right? The strong arm of Yah comes and redeems his people. It is with a strong arm that I have called you out. Well, that's a Passover reference, because in the Passover, the lamb that is eaten, the lamb shank, the lamb bone, is referred to as the arm. It's the arm of Yah. So how does Father redeem or bring comfort? How did he redeem or bring comfort to the original house of Israel? Through the Passover arm, through the arm of Yah, the Passover lamb. Now he's telling us, how is Father going to do it in the time to come? When Father speaks, and how beautiful are the feet of those who understand this and tell others, he's going to do it the same way. He's going to lay bare his set apart arm, the Passover lamb shank. Of course, it's not just a lamb shank now. Now we know it's a servant. We know it's a man. At least we know it's a man. And he's going to do this in the eyes of all the nations. Everybody's going to see this. Everybody's going to get a chance to understand this, to have some sort of exposure to this. And this story that Father's telling, this comfort to Jerusalem, that starts with Jerusalem, but doesn't end with Jerusalem. And all the ends of the earth shall see the deliverance of our Elohim. Wonderful, right? Amazing stuff. So let's find that in the gospel story. So here's Matthew chapter 28 and verse 18. Of course, this is what we call the Great Commission. But Messiah, it's after the resurrection, it's all done. He's about to ascend. He came up and spoke to them saying, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Therefore, he wants his disciples to go, his taught ones to go out to all the nations and tell them what just happened. On Passover, he died. 3 days later, he rose. He is the strong arm of Yah. He is the Passover lamb. Behold the Lamb of El that takes away the sin of the world. How beautiful are the feet of those who bring this good news of the comfort to Jerusalem. And when you go on reading in that Great Commission, it's not you start at Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, but ultimately you go to the ends of the earth. We'll look at that verse, Acts chapter 1, verse 8. Again, this is just Luke's account of the ascension. But you shall receive power when the set apart Spirit has come upon you, and you shall be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth. This story wasn't just supposed to stop with Jerusalem. It starts with Jerusalem, but it goes all over the earth. And he gives us the order here of how this happens. And where do we first see this? We see this in Isaiah. We see the pattern in Isaiah telling us this is how it's going to happen. This is not about a nation doing this. This is about a man, a person doing this, and then sending out a nation of people to go and do this. And how beautiful is his feet, and how beautiful are our feet when we share this news properly, when we really do understand the story. Okay. Isaiah chapter 52, verse 9. This is part of what we just read, but this is the next part of it. So he says, break forth, sing into joy, sing together the waste places of Jerusalem. All right, so on one hand, he's saying they're waste places, but on the other hand, he's saying he's redeeming them. For Yah shall comfort his people, he shall redeem Jerusalem. Okay, we got that. We just read that. Skipping a couple of verses, look at now what verse 11 says. To the people of Jerusalem. This is real important. He's talking to the people of Jerusalem, who is a wasteland. And yet he is going to bring the gospel, the good news, to comfort that people, even though they are a wasteland. Turn aside. Turn aside. Come out from there. Touch not the unclean. Come out of, and I want you to notice this, guys. Look at this. This is very, very important. It says, come out of her midst and be clean. Well, who's the her? Here it is. Jerusalem's the her. So he's come for the comfort of the people of Jerusalem, but Jerusalem is full of waste places. His feet are beautiful, and he's going to tell a wonderful story of good news of comfort, but not everybody's going to really believe the report, as Isaiah says, and of course, as Saul says. And so there's, again, two things can be true at the same time. And here's a dichotomy here. While redemption is coming to Jerusalem, to the house of Israel first, and then to all the world, he is also telling his people to come out of her. Come out of her, come out of her midst and be clean, because she's not clean. She's unclean. Jerusalem is very, at least the way Isaiah is telling the story, she's very, very unclean. He says, don't even touch it. Don't touch her. Come out of her. You who bear the vessels of Yah. For you shall not come out in haste, nor go in flight, for Yah is going before you, and Elohim of Israel is your rear guard. Again, we talked about this last week. This is all Exodus speak, right? Messiah, the pillar of fire, the pillar of smoke goes before them, but then there's also their rear guard. He's telling his people in this redemption story of the Passover story, they're also going to come out. But where are they going to come out of? Yes, we're going to come out of sin, obviously. All right, we got that. But we're talking about the historical story. Where are they also supposed to come out of? Jerusalem. Because she's become something, and the temple around her has become something she was not supposed to be. Here's Revelation chapter 18. I want you to realize, I think this is what Revelation is referring to when we read Revelation. Here's Revelation 18 about Mystery Babylon, the harlot. He says, and I cried with a mighty voice, and he, the angel, cried with a mighty voice, saying, Babel, the great, is fallen. Now I'm doing a little color coding here, so hopefully you guys can see it. I put Jerusalem in orange, and the people are told to come out of here. I put Babylon the Great in orange, and listen to what it says, and has become a dwelling place of demons, a haunt for every unclean spirit. Let me use a different color for that. I'll use green here. She's a place for unclean spirit. In Jerusalem, we're told not to touch what is unclean. A haunt for every unclean and hated bird. Similar idea. Because all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her whoring. And the kings of the earth have committed whoring with her. Babylon and Egypt and Persia. This has been going on for a long time. Have committed whoring with her. And the merchants of the earth have become rich through the power of her riotous living. And I heard another voice in heaven saying, and what does he say to his people? Come out of her, my people. This is this teal or green color. And of course, I'm matching it up to this teal or green color here. Come out of her. What's Revelation talking about? This Babel that is fallen is fallen. I think it's the same thing Isaiah is talking about. Jerusalem and its waste places, yes, the people of it will be redeemed, but Father's going to tell his people, come out of her. Get out of her. Get away from her. She's lost it. And of course, when does all of this happen? Here is just a small portion. We'll look more into this in just a second. But here's Luke chapter 21, when the Messiah is telling us about the days that are going to come when the temple is going to be destroyed and Rome is going to come in and surround Jerusalem. And the master says in Luke chapter 21:20, and when you see Jerusalem, so here it is, Jerusalem, Babylon the Great is fallen, surrounded by armies, then know that her laying waste is here. What is Jerusalem? She is a waste places. Her laying waste is near. Let those who are in Judah flee to the mountains. Let those who are in the midst of her, come out of her midst. Those who are in the midst of her, and it's her. See, it's her. The her that's being spoken of is Jerusalem. And let those who are in the midst of her come out, and let not those who are in the fields enter her. Where does this start? Well, it starts actually even before Isaiah, but here it is in Isaiah. This is part of the story. It's part of the Passover story. Because what's part of the Passover story? Not only does the Passover lamb, get put over the doorpost and brings redemption and life to the firstborn, to the whole house of Israel, but to the firstborn of all that have the blood over the house, they also get out afterward, right? That's the process. That's the story. The same story is being told to us now, but in a much, much bigger sense. Okay, so let's move on a little bit. So the individual whose feet are beautiful, who are going to preach this good news, who the words that they say are not their words, but their Father's words, this servant is the one that's going to redeem Jerusalem and, of course, the nations. So here's Isaiah chapter 52 and verse 13. He says, "See, my servant shall work wisely." Now, again, our Jewish brethren would say, "Oh, he's talking about Israel." Well, no, he's talking about the one who's going to redeem us. But we'll make that argument in a second. He says, "My servant shall work wisely. He shall be exalted and lifted up very high. As many as were astonished at you." So this servant who we read in verses last week, who's going to be abased and beaten and just, like the lowest of the low, now we're hearing this servant is also going to be lifted high, right? In one sense, the actual Messiah is being beaten and put upon a cross and spat on and ridiculed. And 3 days later, he is risen and then exalted to the right hand of Abba. That's kind of what this is saying. He shall be exalted and lifted very high. As many as were astonished at you. Why were they astonished at him? Because now he's being lifted high. Because his disfigurement was beyond any man's, and his form beyond the sons of men. He's contrasting the two points here. How can you be so debased, so disfigured, so dishonored among men, and yet then wind up to be so high? This is not about the nation of Israel. The nation of Israel did not go through this process. The nation of Israel is not considered high. No better or different than any other nation. Certainly they've had all their problems. Lots of stuff has happened to them throughout the ages. But they haven't redeemed anybody. They are not lifted up on high. This is not that servant that he's talking about. It says, this particular servant who is debased and is lifted on high, he shall likewise startle many nations, surprise many nations. Why? Sovereigns, kings, shut their mouths at him. For what had not been recounted to them, they shall see. And what had not been heard, they shall understand. So back up a second. What didn't they see? What did the nations not see? And I'm talking from Rome to what every other nation that comes after Rome, the way history unfolds in all of Europe, Western Europe, and Asia, and the Middle East. And what did the nations not see? Or even the nations of that day that are not Rome, what did they not see? What was not important to them? The Passover. Well, who was it important to? Well, it was important to the house of Israel. It was important to the Jew, but it wasn't important to anybody else. It was just it's in the first century. It's a Jewish thing. It wasn't important. Now a story we had not heard, the story of Moses, the story of the first Exodus, the story of the first Passover, the story of the first Moses, the prophet Moses. That story that we did not hear, we're now hearing. Except we're hearing it on a much, much bigger, and it's going to be in our mouths. It's the stuff it's going to shut our mouths because this stuff hasn't been recounted before, but now it is. Now we're seeing it. Now we're understanding it. The one who was debased and disfigured like more than any other man, and yet the same person who was exalted and lifted high. All right, let's see this played out in the scriptures of the renewed covenant, Revelation chapter 5. And here is, thinking like verse 4 or 5. I didn't put it in there. It says, and I looked, so John weeps. Nobody's there to take the scroll from Father, right? This is all heaven scene. We just sang about this past weekend. Nobody's there to take the scroll from Father. And John says, and he says, look, and I saw in the midst of the throne and of the four living creatures and in the midst of the elders, he says, a lamb standing as having been slain. Now, I color coordinated this so that you guys can hopefully make the connections with me. A lamb as having been slain is the one who is disfigured and his form beyond the sons of men. This means the same thing, because he's looking at a lamb that's already been cut up. It's already been bled. It's been prepped. It's gone through the whole sacrificial thing. That's what he's looking at. That's what Isaiah is looking at. And yet this very lamb, this very servant that Isaiah is talking about, he is debased more than any other man, but he is also exalted. He's going to startle the world and the nations. All right. Let me get rid of that green. We'll use blue here. He shall likewise startle the nations. So here's the lamb as having been slain, and having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of Elohim, which go out into all the earth. The story of this lamb is going to go out to startle many nations. This is the fulfillment of Isaiah 52 that we're reading here. It's going to go out and it's going to startle many, many nations. And the kings, let me get rid of some of these lines here. We'll go back to yellow. Kings will shut their mouths, for the story that is not recounted to them they shall see, and the thing that they did not hear they shall understand. And what happens? Now that they see the Lamb who is worthy to take the scroll, who has been abased and looks like a lamb that has been slaughtered, is now going to be exalted in praise and worship with a new song. This is Isaiah 52. And they sang a renewed song, singing, "You are worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals, because you were slain, debased, and have redeemed us to Elohim by your blood as the Passover Exodus story lamb, the Messiah, out of every tribe and tongue and people and nation. We shall all understand." Can you see the correlation between these? This is a prophecy, but it's the story of Messiah. This doesn't fit a nation, but this does fit one person in all of history. Of course, that is the Messiah himself. Okay, so let's zip along here. Now, so we read, as Saul was saying in Romans 10, how beautiful are the feet of them. He's quoting Isaiah 52. How beautiful are the feet of those who preach the good news, right? They got to be sent to do that. Messiah, now you and I, all the people that have come ever since that teach this good news, that preach this good news, that tell others of this good news. But then Isaiah 53. So we're finally going to touch Isaiah 53. We're not going to get very far in it, but we're finally going to touch it. So Isaiah 53 opens up with, after reading all of that, "Who has believed our report? And to whom was the arm of Yah revealed?" So who didn't believe the report that saw the Passover lamb, the real Passover lamb, the second Passover lamb, the real arm of Yah? Well, Israel saw it. The Pharisees saw it. The Sadducees saw it. The people of Jerusalem saw it. The Romans saw it. They lived it. It was right there. And there were those amongst them who even saw it that chose not to believe the report. And of course, the report winds up to ultimately be that the Lamb has come. This is told to us again in the gospel accounts. Here's John chapter 1 and verse 11. And look, I'm color coding. I'm sorry. I am color coding here. Do this in purple here. Who has believed our report? You see, it's in that brown color or orange color. John 1:11. He came to his own, meaning to the house of Israel, to the Sadducee, the Pharisee, the Essene, the people. He came to his own, but his own did not receive him. Who has believed our report? And to whom has the arm of Yah been revealed? This is what John's talking about, or you can correlate it to what Isaiah is talking about. But as many as did receive him, so not all that he came to received him, but as many as did receive him, to them he gave the authority to become the children of Elohim, to those believing in his name. Amen. All right. What is the story of Isaiah 53, this report that's not going to be believed, we know now it's the Passover story, but I'm just saying it rhetorically. So what's the story? Well, you can summarize it by verse 7 of Isaiah. Again, we're not going to read through Isaiah yet. Maybe we'll do that next week. But I'm just taking a little pinch of Isaiah to show you something else in just a second. So here's Isaiah 53 and verse 7. So what's the report that no one wanted to believe? The report that some believed in the arm of Yah, but others chose not to. That he was oppressed and he was afflicted, but he did not open his mouth. And that he, the servant, who is going to bring comfort to Jerusalem and bring the good news of comfort to Zion and to the world, was led as a lamb to the slaughter. And as a sheep before his shearers is silent, but he did not open his mouth. That's the good news. That's the story. That's how redemption comes. That's what will not be believed by many, especially to those he came, but others will. Kings will shut their mouths at it because they are hearing a story they have not heard before, and they're connecting it to the Passover story. So the question, as you know, we started this whole thing off with, is the he that is being talked about here. He came to his own. Who believe our report, and to who is the arm? Who is the arm of Yah, the Passover lamb? Is it Israel, the Jews, the Jewish people? Are they the servant Isaiah is speaking about? Or is it an individual, a person? Is it a messianic prophecy? Again, I know lots of people that will argue this back and forth, but let's take a look at something. Here's the book of Jeremiah. I know we're talking about a totally different book, happens after the time, way after the time of Isaiah, but Isaiah quotes the book of Jeremiah in a very specific way. He interprets the story we just read from Isaiah 40 all the way to 52 or 53, what we just read. He equates that servant not with the house of Israel, but he equates it with a man. As a matter of fact, what he's going to do is he's going to use that analogy for himself and speak of his story in that context. And we're going to find out as we go through a little bit of his story is also the story of the coming Messiah. Let's take it. This is crazy. So when you get some of our Jewish brethren that are looking back and saying, well, it's the house of Israel. Well, no, here's Jeremiah who's telling us, no, it's not. No, it's not. He's talking about a man. He's talking about an individual. Mashiach. He's talking about a prophet in a particular set of circumstances that's going to be abased and then exalted. So here's Jeremiah. I didn't want to read the whole chapter through. It's a lot. Let me give you just a little background. Jerusalem's going to be destroyed. Right? He keeps telling everybody, listen, Nebuchadnezzar's coming. We've just sinned. We've broken the covenant. We've rebelled. We've got idolatry going on. The priests are corrupt. I mean, just everything you could think of is going on. And Jeremiah keeps telling everybody that would listen to him, a tragedy is coming. Of course, you've got other prophets that are saying, other people that claim to be prophets, that are telling everybody, everything's fine, peace, don't worry, we got the temple, everything's going to be honky-dory. Jeremiah says that temple's coming down. At some point, you can tell them the temple's coming down. People don't want to hear this, right? They do not want to hear this, that this stuff is coming. He's right, that they've become sinners. He's right, that they've rejected the covenant. And of course, historically, he's right that the temple is going to fall, which makes him the weeping prophet because he's going to mourn and lament and weep over the coming destruction of the temple. Well, does that sound familiar? Someone else is going to do that too. So here's Jeremiah chapter 11, verse 9, just to give you a little context. It says, and Yah said to me, there is a conspiracy among the men of Judah and among the inhabitants of Jerusalem. So it's about Jerusalem. It's about the temple, but it's about Judah. They have turned back to the crookedness of their forefathers. Let me just make this a little bit bigger for me. It says, they have turned back to the crookedness of their forefathers, who refused to hear my words. And they have gone after other mighty ones to serve them. The house of Israel and the house of Judah have broken my covenant I made with their fathers. Therefore, thus says Yah, see, I am bringing evil on them in which they are unable to escape. And they shall cry out to me, but I shall not listen to them. And the cities of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem shall go and cry out to the mighty ones to whom they burn incense, but they shall bring no deliverance to them at all in their time of evil. So judgment is coming on the temple, it's coming on Jerusalem, but also all the surrounding cities of Judah or Israel of its day. It's all coming down because of all of these things. Okay, we're skipping some verses. So what happened? So here's Jeremiah bringing a very unpopular message, right? Because you've got other people who are prophets that are saying the total opposite. Jeremiah's bugged out. He's a crazy man, whatever. So look what winds up happening. This is Father. This is crazy. So Jeremiah chapter 11, verse 18. We're skipping a couple of verses here. It says this, and Yah made it known to me. So to Jeremiah, Father's opened up Jeremiah's eyes to something. He made it known to me, and I know it. Then you showed me their deeds. But so this is really important. I'm gonna highlight it in purple here. He's talking about himself, a man, a prophet who is saying things that are unpopular about the sin that even the people in the temple are committing, about the covenant they have broken, about the tragedy that is about to befall them. This man is doing this. And look what he says of himself, the man. Look at the analogy he makes. But I was like a gentle lamb brought to the slaughter. He's referring to Isaiah. He's taking the story of Isaiah 52, 53, really from 40 all the way to 53, and he's using that not as an analogy for the nation, because the analogy for the nation is they're in turmoil. Everything's unclean. It's the other, come out of her, come out of her. But he's using the analogy of the lamb brought to slaughter as an individual prophet, a man, a single man who is saying these things that are very unpopular, true, but unpopular to the hearer. And he's saying it of himself. So look at what happens to him. He says, and I did not know that they had plotted against me, saying, let us destroy the tree with its fruit, and let us cut him off from the land of the living, and let his name be remembered no more. There were people, upon hearing his message, that were plotting the death of Jeremiah. Father reveals this to Jeremiah, and he feels like he, an individual, is like a lamb being brought to the slaughter. Verse 20, but Yah of hosts, who judges righteously, who tries the kidneys and the heart, the most inner parts of a man's body, let me see your vengeance. This is big. He wants to see Father's vengeance on them, on the people who have broken the covenant, who are doing all these crazy things, and they're plotting his death. For unto you I have revealed my cause. Therefore, thus says Yah concerning the men of Anathoth. These were the guys who were plotting his death, the guys from Anathoth, who are seeking your life. Here it is. They're seeking his life. So this isn't a metaphorical thing. This is happening, and he sees it. He sees himself in the same position as the servant that Isaiah spoke of prophetically, that's coming in a very similar situation to do the same thing. He's going to be like a lamb led to the slaughter. Can you see that even Jeremiah realizes it's not about the nation? This is about an individual. Saying, do not prophesy in the name of Yah, lest you die by our hand. They didn't want to speak. They didn't want to hear his voice. Therefore, thus says Yah of hosts. So what's he going to do? I put it here in purple. I'm just going to highlight it or circle it in yellow here. So what's going to happen to these people? See, I am punishing them. The young men shall die by the sword. Very important. Their sons and their daughters shall die by scarcity of food, pestilence, disease, sickness. And there shall be no remnant of them. For I bring evil to the men of Anathoth, the year of punishment, or the year of vengeance, because that's what he's asking for, vengeance. That's what's coming upon them. And it's upon them, upon Judah and Jerusalem, upon the temple, upon everything, because that's the prophecy that Jeremiah brought. So this is very, very important evidence for us to look at as we read. What was another prophet? How did another prophet interpret the words of the first prophet, Isaiah, when speaking about the servant who's coming? He interpreted those words to apply to a man, to an individual, not to a collective, a group of people. The collective, the group of people are the problem. They're the ones that are going to be redeemed by the man, but they're the problem because not all of them believe. And there's going to be a remedy to the problem, but they are going to lead this servant. They're going to plot his death, and they're going to try to lead him like a lamb led to the slaughter. And of course, because we know the gospel story, we know that's exactly what happened. Here's John chapter 7 and verse 1. Just a couple of references. It says, and after this, Yeshua or Yahushua walking in Galilee, for he did not wish to walk in Judah. Why? Because the Jews were seeking to kill him. Everything he said pissed them off. Everything he said upset them. Everything he said was not what they wanted to hear. So what they start doing? Doing exactly what the men of Anathoth did to Jeremiah. And Father reveals it, just like he revealed it to Jeremiah, he reveals it to Messiah, who will also be a weeping prophet over Jerusalem, crying out, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how I wanted to gather you together as a mother hen gathers her chicks, just like Jeremiah cries over Jerusalem, knowing the coming destruction. Chapter 8 and verse 40 of Gospel of John. I'm right here, guys. If you lost your spot, I'm right here under the yellow. It says, but now you seek to kill me. He's talking to the Pharisees and Sadducees. Now you seek to kill me, a man who has spoken the truth, which I heard from Elohim. Abraham did not do this. So again, did he know they were trying to kill him? And we can look at another 5 or 6 verses where it says the same thing, and the Jews tried to kill him, and they were plotting his death, and the high priest wanted him dead. Just over and over and over. So we know this. Thomas knows it. They all know that this is what's going to happen if these people get their hands on them. So what does the master do? He gives almost the same prophecy that Jeremiah gave under the same circumstances. Men are coming to kill him. And what does he say about them and everybody around them? Matthew 23, they're vipers, they're snakes, they're this, they're that, whitewashed sepulchres, your sons of the dead, just rips them apart. They've made Father's house a den of thieves. They've broken the covenant. They've killed the prophets. And then Luke 21, we looked at a piece of this before. Let's look at more of it now. It says, then let those in Judah flee to the mountains, and let those who are in the midst of her go out. Wait a second. We saw this. We saw this in Isaiah. And let not those who are in the fields enter her. Enter her who? Enter her Jerusalem. Because these are the days of vengeance, just like in Jeremiah, because they wanted to lead him as a lamb to the slaughter. These are the days of vengeance to fill all that has been written in both Isaiah and in Jeremiah. And woe to those who are pregnant. This is going to affect the women and the children, just like it said in Jeremiah. And those who are nursing in those days. For there shall be great distress in the earth and wrath upon this people. The people who have broken the covenant, the people who have defamed the temple, that did not believe in the one who came to them. But as many as did believe, he tells them to get out. just like the people of Anathoth. And verse 2, and they, these people, shall fall by the edge of the sword, just like Jeremiah said, and be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem, that's the her, that's the she, shall be trampled underfoot by the nations until the times of the nations are fulfilled. So again, the question is, can the servant that we are reading about here in Isaiah, can it be the nation? No, absolutely not. Not only because historically lots of rabbis realized that it wasn't and taught that it wasn't until they got just so upset with Christendom that they just switched the whole thing around, didn't want it to at all reflect the story of the Mashiach as we understand him, the one who died and rose again, to the point where they cut off Isaiah 53, don't read it, or try to explain it away as something else. But Jeremiah didn't do that. Jeremiah understood it. And he even saw his own situation as a parallel to that servant. And it is. And whether he knew it or not, Messiah would actually parallel his situation as well. Being the voice to Jerusalem and to the surrounding peoples, a voice that the leadership just did not want to hear, to the point that they would want to kill him and they would want to send him as a sheep to the slaughter, as a lamb to the slaughter. So, guys, that's our study for tonight. I hope that you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully the pieces are starting to come together. We'll get into Isaiah 53 next week. We're going to go right through it and look at all the different parallels and stuff like that. And, hopefully by the time we're done with this, you're going to have some good information to be able to share with our Jewish brethren, our Muslim brethren, our Christian brethren, anybody who may deny who Messiah is. You can't fake this stuff. It is so intricate, so detailed. Hopefully you've got some ammunition there that you'll be able to use to be able to have your feet be good feet. For you to have beautiful feet, because how beautiful are the feet who preach the gospel, the good news. You want to have beautiful feet. I don't care what your feet look like, but if you want to have spiritually beautiful feet, learn what this story is about and then be able to relate it to other people in a way that makes sense, from our Jewish brethren all the way through to every other culture there is out there. All right. Again, I hope that you enjoyed that study for tonight. Don't forget to hang out with us tomorrow morning for our morning manna, and of course this upcoming Friday. I think we're going to be talking about spiritual warfare. A lot of that stuff going on right now. So be a neat conversation for this Friday night at Hidden Manna. And of course, this weekend on Saturday for Shabbat at 10:30 is our normal weekend service. Join us then as well. Don't forget, if you could, guys, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you're notified. Most of all, hit the thumbs up. Give us a thumbs up, guys. Stop right now. 10 seconds, 2 seconds, 5 seconds. Just hit that thumbs up really quick. So we get sent out to some other people. Share this with somebody that you think might be interested in this sort of information. In the meantime, guys, I want you to have an awesome, awesome evening out there. Thanks for joining me tonight, guys. Yah bless. And of course, shalom.